When I was probably 8 to 10 maybe, a relative of mine attacked his brother over something as simple as headphones. Instead of simply asking his brother where his headphones were, he decided to lunge over a table and scream at him. That was a strange night, to say the least. Cops came, bawled my eyes out. And best part about it was that it was raining super hard that night, so it added to the atmosphere of everything. So we even got a car ride in a police cruiser to my relative's friend's place after all that happened. And those seats in the back of cop cars are the most uncomfortable thing you'll ever sit in. They're awful. All this leads into my topic, which is pacifism. Pacifism can be a controversial topic, partly because of preconceived notions surrounding it. Someone as famous as George Orwell even said that pacifism is, quote, objectively pro-fascist, which is an interesting quote, to say the least. Author from the Huffington Post said, quote, "I'm tired of pacifists. I'm not going to be polite to them anymore. I'm not going to be accommodating in polite society and pretend that while I differ, I respect the pacifist opinion. I don't. Pacifists are wrong. This is why. Pacifism tolerates, even abets terrorism and fascism and the war and violence that come from them," unquote. I don't know about you, but they definitely don't like pacifists. And at the end of the day, that's their perspective and opinion. But obviously, I don't entirely agree with that. Do I think that violence is totally unjustifiable under any circumstance? Personally, no. But I also believe that sending young men and women out to war to kill each other because two different cultures disagree with one another, I feel is barbaric and does more harm than good. According to the National Library of Medicine, war has a catastrophic effect on the health and well-being of nations. Studies have shown that conflict situations cause more mortality and disability than any other major disease. War destroys communities and families and often disrupts the development of the social and economic fabric of nations. Now, it's one thing to say this, so let's look at some studies that have been conducted about it. In 2002, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention performed a national population-based mental health survey in Afghanistan. They studied 799 adults in households, 699 of which were disabled, 699 were not disabled, and 100 were disabled. All these people were 15 and up. "62% of them reported experiencing trauma in the last decade, usually relating to lack of food and water. 56.1% of those who were not disabled in lack of shelter, 69.7% for the disabled, 67.7% experienced depression, and 72.2% experienced symptoms of anxiety. PTSD symptoms didn't vary much between the disabled and abled, 42.1% for the physically abled, 42.2% for the disabled. This is only 1 year after the war in Afghanistan started, so you can imagine how worse it got in the 19 years after the war, the 19 years that the war went on after that. We're going to compare this to this devastation to something a little bit more progressive, like the anti-nuclear movement. The anti-nuclear movement was a group that advocated for the disarmament of nuclear bombs, women's rights, and peace in general. The movement started in 1945 after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These bombings not only affected Japan, but also affected people all around the world because of the devastation the bombs caused. In the mid-50s, tensions started growing because of concerns pertaining to the nuclear bombs and the tests that they were conducting with these nuclear bombs in areas that people were uncomfortable with testing them. And people were concerned about potential fallout or mutations to their genes. Not only that, but bomb testing had a possibility to kill their livestock, and people could get very sick because of it. This concern was amplified after a Japanese fishing boat was exposed to a huge amount of radiation after the Bikini Atoll bomb test in 1954. The ashes of radiated land rained down on them without them knowing truly how deadly the ash was. All 23 people on the boat died of acute radiation poisoning. This caused a backlash, and in 1955, the first World Conference against hydrogen and atomic bombs was held in Hiroshima after a petition was signed by over 30 million people. This conference clearly had an effect since a similar one was held in Nagasaki just a year later. As a result of this, in 1963, Kennedy signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which banned the testing of all nuclear bombs that were not being tested underground. This was signed by the US, UK, and Soviet Union, and this is only a small amount of what the anti-nuclear movement has done. These examples that I've given were only a small portion of my research on pacifism. I encourage anyone who's interested in it to do their own research and come to their own conclusions.